can I just say that the New Zealand Herald stand condemned today for cowardice, for not sticking up to the principle of freedom of speech and discussion in this country, and for a lack of even-handedness in their relationship on the issue of the repeal or the potential repeal of the Marine and Coastal Area Act of 2011. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as I go on. But they're also responsible for a remarkable own goal. And the remarkable own goal of the New Zealand Herald in particular, and of the publications it is responsible for, is that the controversy has alerted ordinary New Zealanders. Now, I'm not talking about Te Pāti Māori. I'm not talking about the Māori Journalists Association. I'm not talking about Watia News, all of who have boycotted or threatened to boycott the New Zealand Herald and its various commercial guises. I'm talking about you and I. Because what this controversy has done is brought into the very front yard of our consciousness a piece of legislation that I would think most New Zealanders did not know even existed. And that is the Marine and Coastal Area Takatai Moana Act of 2011. It was introduced into Parliament, in actual fact, in June of 2010 by the Attorney General of the time, Christopher Finlayson of the National Party, and with the support of the National Cabinet and its Prime Minister National, John Key. And they agreed in June 2010, after a cabinet meeting, to repeal the Foreshore and Seabed Act, which was the significantly important piece of legislation introduced by Helen Clark and the Labour Party in 2005 to resolve a contentious issue, which was to whom the coastlines belong. Who has access to them, the rights and privileges. And essentially it decided in 2005, the then Labour government, that it belongs to us all. Maori, Pākehā, Pacific Island, Asian, whatever your background or ethnicity, however long your ancestors had or had not been here, if you were a New Zealand citizen or resident of this country, you had access to our beaches, and to our coasts for recreational, good God, for religious, for philosophical, for commercial purposes. It belonged to us all. And it was I thought, relatively elegant piece of legislation. 2004, not 2005. Well, the government, the National Party of the time, and this is 14 years ago, decided that that wasn't a good idea, even though it was, and that they were going to remove Crown ownership of the public foreshore and seabed and replace it with a non-ownership model for the public foreshore and seabed. So something that belonged to us all, because it was owned by the Crown, now suddenly was going to belong to no one. And they were also going to restore the right of Maori to access the High Court to seek customary title. Now, note that word, customary title. It wasn't customary access. No. It was customary title. In other words, you own that piece of foreshore or seabed. It wasn't customary access, like you can go there all the time and you can always put out a kontiki or go fishing for pipi or mussel or harvest kinner just off the... No, it wasn't that. It was, off you go. It belongs to you. Customary title. I'm not making up these words. This was in the press release of 15th of June 2010 of the Attorney General of the time, Christopher Finlayson, after the relevant cabinet meeting. It was also going to realise something else, that the Crown can negotiate with any iwi that they want to on an individual basis for recognition of their customary interests. So in other words, it doesn't need to go through Parliament. Well, it might, the final settlement might, but the reality is that you wouldn't know if your access to a particular beach to catch a particular fish or a particular shellfish or whatever it might be is going to be restricted in the future, because it's been subject to secret negotiations between the Crown and that particular iwi claimant group. All right? And that the government of the time, Mr. Finlayson said, and the Maori Party had worked hard to find, quote unquote, a satisfactory solution to the injustices caused by the Foreshore and Seabed Act while protecting the interests of all New Zealanders and recognising customary rights. Now, I'm afraid there's an obvious contradiction in there. You can't protect the interests of all New Zealanders while you're recognising that one particular group of New Zealanders can have a right and an access that nobody else can enjoy. I mean, and this is by Chris Finlayson, stupid because he can't even use logic in the same sentence. Those two are contradictory. You can't, as I said, recognise that somebody's got a customary right, even a title to something, because their ancestors did it forever, well, for a demonstrably long time, and then accept that all New Zealanders have the same interest in that particular piece of land or access or title or whatever, because you've just denied it through the previous action. All right, that then caused the Marine and Coastal Area Act of 2011, and we know what happened next. And that is the courts decided to take Mr. Finlayson and the National Party at their word and interpret the Marine and Coastal Area Act to say, well, you don't need to have gone there all the time to have that customary right or title. All right? Just some of the time's fine. And so they loosened that. And at the same time, iwi claimants throughout the entire of New Zealand said, well, we actually, if that's the case, we may as well go. We may as well put this claim in and to the high courts, and we will go, or in direct negotiation with the Crown, and we'll go and claim customary title or customary rights, one or t'other, or both, over most of the coastal area of New Zealand, which is what's happened. Now, it's entirely okay for Hobson's pledge to point out that there's a problem and to have a particular view that this is not a good idea, and that in actual fact, the Foreshore and Seabed Act of 2004 was a much more elegant and long-term solution that recognised that the Crown owns all of that on behalf of us all, irrespective. The National Party created this problem, can I say, to Prime Minister Christopher Luxon and your team, and you need to now solve it. So, and it's entirely acceptable for a particular lobby group, in this particular case Hobson's pledge, to point out the degree of difficulty that presents future race relations and recreation in this particular country. It's entirely apposite for them to be involved and to advocate a point of view. But on the basis of threats and bluster and boycotts, the New Zealand Herald's decided that it will not provide an output for those kind of debates and discussions, even if you purchase space in their newspaper or attendant publications. They've decided that this is just too heavy, too dangerous, and more likely too fascist and too racist to go down that line. And so editorially, they have brought a view that we've got to walk away from that money and from that viewpoint and not involve ourselves in the public discussion because we don't want to upset that group over there. And so what has this taught us, this little issue? One, that boycott, bluster and bullshit, and some combination of all of those things, is an extraordinarily effective strategy when to be applied to the media of this country. By claiming that an alternative view that you don't agree with is racist, wrong, and is somehow an insult to the entire Maori people and culture, you can, just by using that argument, effect genuine political change in your favour. And you can freeze out and atrophy those who might have a different point of view on those particular issues. But the other thing it's also taught you is if you're a non-Maori in this country, and that is you hesitate now to say anything that could be deemed even slightly offensive or censorious or even opposite to the mainstream Maori view or whatever that might be that you perceive in the general population. You're censored. Your mouth is zipped. You might think these things, but you can't possibly say them now in public for fear of being branded. What Hobson's Pledge have been branded and have been boycotted and essentially blackmailed by a whole group of people who don't share your view. This isn't just simply the atrophying of a commercial enterprise somewhere, or the New Zealand Herald simply deciding that they're going to make a commercial decision, because this is about inhibiting ordinary New Zealanders from being able to express a particular view or views on an issue. Nothing stops Waitea News with its views, or Te Pāti Māori, or the Maori Journalists Association, who I have to say on a daily basis have their views promoted and polemicised throughout the entire media of this country. And when one small little organisation over there, Hobson's Pledge, says, well, we disagree and we think that you need to look at this, shut down, removed from being able to publicise themselves even on a commercial basis, because sure as hell no one's listening to them amongst the journalists and the editorialists anyhow, are they? The reason they started advertise because they've been trying to raise this issue and haven't been covered by the ordinary media of this country. So, having been rejected editorially by all the journalists of this country, they've decided to go and purchase the space to at least get their message out and had that access denied as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't democracy. This isn't the free exchange of ideas and concepts. This isn't the ability to justify something because you are now being criticised, so now I have to justify why there is a Marine and Coastal Area Act and why it especially privileges one particular ethnicity or culture in this country. No, this is about I'm not even prepared to enter the debate. You are not entitled to your point of view. I'm going to shut you down. That is fascism. Pure and simple. It says there is only one orthodox totalitarian view and nothing else shall exist. That is not the New Zealand we want.